Welcome to Bungalows for Bachelors. We got our braced wall lines drawn on our house. So now we have to follow some rules. We're going to start from the wind blowing down direction, talk about braced wall line A, because that's going to be the simplest one. Some rules are because now this is a braced wall line, I am required to brace the wall by some rules according to the perforated shear walls method I'm using. And those rules begin with this is the beginning of my braced wall line. The braced wall line goes down and stops here. I must put a braced wall panel, which could be lots of different things. It could be a leaden brace, it could be a sheathing panel, it could be a portal frame, it could be some kind of combinations of things. It could be gypsum board. But I need to start a panel. I need to start a braced wall panel in my corner if possible. But if I can't because there's a door or window or something, then I need to at least start 10 feet from my corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw. I'm going to make a line for braced wall panels. I'm going to draw offset so I can see a little better. But because I know I can put one right on the edge, I'm going to go, well, shoot, this should be 4 feet. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do dimension first so I can just, this is a little bit easier. If you have, oh, I can't, it doesn't make the numbers any bigger. 4 feet, right about there. Okay. If I have a scale on paper, it'd probably be a little bit easier. So 4 feet needs to be my first brace wall panel. Right here to right here. Perfect. So I'm going to put that is what I'm counting as a braced wall panel right there. Boom, sheathing right in the corner. Now I need to continue down my wall. What is the rule for continuing down my wall? Well, I can go 20 feet before I need another panel. So in this case, this thing's only 21 feet wide. So I happen to know that at the end of my line, I also need a braced wall panel with the same rule of it can only be maximum 10 feet away from my corner. So I'm going to do the same thing down here. I know I need one at the end. Oh man, that's really hard to read that. This would be a lot easier with a 4 foot, it's about right there. All right. So I'll have another 4 foot panel right here. Okay. So now I've got a 4 foot panel at the start of my braced wall line and at the end of my braced wall line. So I've met the start and end condition. The question is, do I have less than 20 feet between them? And I believe the answer should be yes. Here to here. I've got 13 feet, 11 and a half. So I'm totally fine. Cool. So I'm going to leave these dimensions here so that I'm basically proving that I'm meeting the rules by doing that. So I'm good to go. Now, what I'm not checking here is I don't know that the charts of the IRC are going to tell me how much linear feet I need of the braced wall panel of a certain type in my wall here. So that's going to be based on this number, 49, 8.5, 49 foot, 8.5 inches. Okay. So that's going to come out of a table combined with my wind speed that I'm designing for and the method I'm using here, which is called CSWSP, continuous sheathing, as in I'm sheathing my whole house. WSP is wood structural panel. All right. So CSWSP is my method for there. And of course, if I was labeling this differently, it would probably look a little cleaner, but whatever. CSWSP. Okay. So those are both continuous sheathing wood structural panels. So what's going to happen is that there's a table in the IRC in the wall design section for wind loads that's going to tell me based on this width and a wind speed of whatever, let's say 110 miles per hour, and I'm using method CSWSP, I need, let's say, 11 feet in this wall. Well, I don't have 11 feet. I have 8 feet because I got 4 feet there and I got 4 feet there. So it doesn't care where it goes. I just need in total 11 feet. So if that were the case, then I would just draw another line right here to wherever the 8-foot part would be, maybe right there, right? So I would just put another panel here. Now I happen to know I'm continuous sheathing the whole thing. So this panel is already going to be here. And there's also going to be one next to it, and there's going to be one next to it, and there's going to be one next to it. But I'm concerned with proving my numbers. I'm concerned with meeting the minimum requirements so that I know this thing meets the safety requirements, right? So I happen to know it's there, so it doesn't matter. But I can put another panel. I can essentially claim another panel, another 4-foot panel. I would move this over, and I would add one of these. Let's say that was 4 feet. And then I have a 4-foot, I've had a 4-foot and a 4-foot. So now I've got a total of a 12-foot amount of length in that wall there. Okay, so that's what I would do. I would check those numbers and make sure that that is sufficient. So that's why that wall's the easiest, because I could just keep adding these things, and I've got lots of room here. So that's braced wall line A. What about braced wall line B? Well, I've got the same distance to a braced wall line here, but I've also got a distance over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to add them both, because what's happening is I've got a bunch of wind load blowing here on this. Let's say this was its own building. You're basically supposed to treat these as two separate buildings. So between A and B is one building, between B and C is one building. And if I have that wall B, it's doing the work of carrying the wind load from both building, the first building and the second building. So I got to add those requirements, right? So I've got this, all these arrows that I drew required me to have, let's say, these 3 panels over here in this wall. Well, I'm going to need I'm going to need that same minimum length in this wall as well. And I'm going to need whatever minimum length the table tells me from this distance as well. And depending on how much space I have, and depending on how I set this up, I can combine different methods and things like that. But we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, there's another wind load on this building that I got to contend with. So braced wall line B is going to do more work than just braced wall line A, because I'm supporting wind load from over here too. So let's say I needed that 11 feet or whatever. I don't actually have the number because the online version of the IRC is not available currently. They're working on the website. So I'm going to say it's 11 feet just because I can. And I'm going to try to get close for this one. That's close enough. Okay, and then I'm going to do another. I want to get as many 4-foot panels as I can out of any exterior wall, because those are the strongest panels. Those are the easiest ones to use. Okay, and then I can't get a panel in here. Now, I'm allowed to claim a panel if this is 2 feet or wider. I'm allowed to claim that as additional length. If it's narrower than 2 feet, that's just like, that's too skinny. It's not helping you. So 1'10", I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to count that. So basically, I know it's going to be there and it's going to help, but I don't get to count it. So say I got those panels right there, and right here. All right. And of course, I'm going to label them. I'm going to use one arrow for both of them. Continuous sheathing, wood structural panel. All right. Now, uh, aside from the length requirement thing, I still have to follow the same rules before I even worry about the length requirement. I've got to be at the beginning of the line. I've got to be at the end of the line or within 10 feet of it. And I need to not go farther than 20 feet between panels. Well, I'm not worried about the 20-foot rule because this thing is basically 20 feet long. But I need a panel at the end of my wall. Well, this is an interior wall, first of all. So I'm probably not going to put wood sheathing on it, though I could if I needed to, and then they could sheetrock over it. But that'd be kind of a pain, and that's not super convenient when you're building. So I got to think about what can I do here. Well, the first thing I want to know is if I'm starting from the end, which is, I mean, wall thickness in not mattering that much. It could be inside the outside of the wall, doesn't matter. I'm going to start from the outside. And I need to go, let's see, where's 10? Trying to read my, that's about 10 feet right there. What does it say? 10 foot 3, yeah, okay. So I have 10 foot and 3/4 to this part of the wall. So I've got some options here. I could try to build something that's probably going to have to be a portal because I don't have that much wall to work with. I have a skinny piece of wall. So if I did do a portal, I would have a header over this door that extends out farther and is nailed to a piece of wood sheathing. This is all inside, so it's kind of funky to do this. And then that would create a panel. It would create a wood structural panel because the whole portal length counts as the no, sorry, not the wood structural panel, as the braced wall panel. Sorry, it will count as a braced wall panel section from where it starts to where it ends. So I could do that, or I could say, well, this part is effectively, depending on if I start on the inside of the wall, the outside of the wall, it's 10 feet from the beginning of this brace wall line. Sorry. So if I start something here and then go up, I could claim that as technically being within the end of this wall line and use that. So I'd ask, okay, what can I do here? Well, I'm looking at this situation. I'm seeing that I already don't quite have enough length here over this side, and I gotta account for this side too. It's gonna require at least another panel. So what I might do is I might look at this closet and say, man, that's just a closet. There's not really any loss if I were to take wood sheathing and put it on the inside of my closet against this wall. So basically do the same thing I'm doing here, but put them on the inside too. So I could fit one, two more panels. So I've got, the same 3 panels. I got 12 feet here. I got 12 feet here if I got an extra panel. So I meet the left side requirement over here. And the right side, it's probably going to require maybe just one more panel, something like that. It's all going to come from the tables. The lengths are going to come from the tables. I can tell you for a span like this is not a big deal. So it's going to go in here like this. So what I can do is I can say the first thing I'm going to do is I need a panel right here at the beginning of this thing. Um, so it's going to be a little funky for whoever builds this when I do that, because I'm going to have basically an extra half-inch thick wall here. They'll have to put the sheathing all the way around this door over to this side so it all looks consistent, but that's the way it goes. So I'm going to start my panel here, and I'm going to run it 4 feet. So I'm going to get a dimension and go 4 feet from here. Where's 4 feet? It's approximately right here. Okay, it's pretty close. So I'm going to do 4 feet with a half-inch, whatever. There's my first panel. Okay, so you ask, how am I going to do this? I got a wall intersection going on here. I got weird stuff going on. Well, I'm going to prioritize the fact that I absolutely need this panel here. And because I need this panel here, I'm going to have to do this. So basically what's going to happen is this panel is going to go on the wall before I frame this one up. It's basically going to have to frame this carefully, possibly frame this green line all the way through, and then just put this panel on here, and then just be mindful of my framing and connect it all together properly, right? So it's weird, but it's possible, and it meets my requirements, so it's going to have to do it. And then I'm going to take another panel and throw it in here, another 4-foot panel. Great. Throw a dimension on it. So beautiful. Good guess. All right. So that's going to take care of brace wall line B. I've got enough support from the left side of the loading, and I've got enough support from the right side. Of course, I'm going to check the tables, make sure those lengths are correct, but I've got enough, and I'm meeting my start and end requirement, and I'm not farther than 20 feet apart for any panels. So it's a little funky, but it's a funky house, and this is part of the problem when you have a wide face on one side and a skinny face and skinny and short walls to support it. I've got to do weird stuff like this usually. All right, and then I've got this last wall over here. Well, this one's going to be pretty simple. I'm just going to, pretending it's an exterior wall, I'm just going to add, you know, maybe one panel there. And I'm probably already within my 10-foot rule if I'm already on this side. But I've got a door here, so I would put my another panel here. So uh, that would be it. Continue the same thing, sheathing panels on the outside, nothing crazy. Okay, so that would take care of that wall. All right, now I'm good to go from the top direction now. I need to look at it from the left side or the right side, doesn't matter which way you look at it. All right, it's the same thing. So I'm going to start with brace wall line 1. Well, the first thing is on this green line, I need a panel to start. So I'm going to draw my first panel. Well, I'm going to start with the dimension. Okay, 4 feet. All right, close enough. All right, so I got a 4-foot panel. And then I've got lots of wall to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of go with the minimum requirement here. So I'm going to check in general how far is 20 feet? It's about right here. So if I start another panel on this side of the window, I know I'm going to be good. So I'm going to do another panel. I'll start with the dimension. 4 feet or so. Oh, excellent aim. Okay, so I'm going to start another panel on this side of the window. Boom, 4 feet. So now when I check the dimension between here and here, I'm less than 20 feet. I'm good to go. Moving on down the wall. Let's see if I can get, I bet I can get less than 20 feet and I can get the last panel in the braced wall line. I bet I could do that. So take a dimension. Yeah, 20 feet's right here, so I'm good. So I'm going to go in, do a panel approximately 4 feet. In real life, these would all be exactly 4-foot panels. Okay, and then I'm going to prove that they're not more than 20 feet apart with a dimension. Tell it 19 feet there. Cool. So now this wall's good. So what I'm going to do is in the International Residential Code, I'm going to look up what's the wind speed, what's this distance between my braced wall lines, what method am I going to use, CSWSP for all these panels, and I'm going to basically check what's my minimum length requirement. And I'm going to have some number. And it's not going to be very much because that's only 21 feet compared to the 49 feet we had here, right? So there's less, the wind's blowing on this wall, but there's less wall for the wind to hit. So I don't need as much strength. So I've got 1, 2, 3 panels. That's going to be great. I'm happy with that strength. I've got, let's say I meet the minimum requirement. I'm good to go. So I'm going to do this other wall down here. And it's got more windows in it. So let's see what kind of things we got to deal with. Well, the first thing is I need my first panel. And I've got room to put a panel in here. So I'm going to do that. Okay, first panel's in. Now I want to go 20 feet. Now I know I'm going to put panels all over this, but I'm just trying to prove math right. So I don't really care. 20 feet's about right there. That's too far. So I can't go on that side of the window. So I'm going to go on the other side of the window. I'm going to draw from this side. Do my 4 feet. Put my panel in. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean that I have to put a panel right here. When I'm framing this house, it doesn't mean I have to put a panel right here. What it means is the way you can interpret this is I'm basically going to prove that when I space these panels like the maximum spacing apart, I've got way more than enough strength with my numbers. So if I continuously sheathe this whole wall and nail it all on properly with the 6 inches on the edges and the 12 inches in the field, nailing pattern with the right size nails, I've got way more than enough strength in this wall. So that's what I'm doing. I'm concerned with proving things. I'm with math and, you know, the plan, but I'm not necessarily saying this has to be a panel right here. And if you don't put this one right here, then you're going to blow up and everything's going to fail. That's not what it means. Okay. So I'm going to keep going. Uh, this side of the opening would be, oh, there's like no wall here. Basically, it's skinny. So I'm going to skip it. I'm going to stay on this side of it. Okay, so my 4 foot is about right here. So I'm going to do one there. I'm going to keep going for the sake of speed because you understand what I'm doing here. All right, so I can go from here. How much is 20 feet? I can't get to the other side of this window, but I can do one on this side of the window. So I'll start here. Go my 4 feet. And then there's the end of my wall here, and I've got plenty of wall to put another panel in here. So I'll hit my end of wall panel with another 4 feet. Okay. So that I would color those in, put the panels in, I would label them, I would add the dimensions for spacing in between. This is all proving that I've got significant strength in my walls. So that is placing the braced wall panels, and that's how we know that we have sufficient quantities and things. So once you got that done, then we can think about something else.